are back. I am so excited about this particular topic because I believe it will really hit the heartbeat of where a lot of women are. It is when beauty becomes a prison. And I feel like the guest that I'm bringing on is a perfect woman of God to be able to speak into this. I believe that she's all things beautiful, but at the same time, all things real. She has not allowed the beauty that the Father has allowed her to show forth in the way she dresses, the way she wears her hair, the way she does her makeup, to block her into being imprisoned by them. And so I'm excited to invite to Permission Talk none other than the Vanika friend, auntie to so many people. Sissy, so grateful to have you. How you feeling today?
I am feeling great. I am so happy to be on here with you today. And this topic, I'm just excited. I'm excited. I don't know what's going to happen. Let me tell y'all. Now, we ain't prep. We ain't do none of that. So what you finna get is what you going to get. And I'm excited to be here with my sister.
Yes, ma'am. Tell us what you got going on before we jump in. What's going on in the world of the friends?
Well, you know, my oldest just went off to college, so I spent about 30 days crying, trying to prepare my heart. And it's so funny because I've been thinking about starting a community. I have so many people reaching out as I'm putting things on social media about just trying to work through my feelings and trying to kind of cut the string a little bit and allowing her to fly and allowing her to trust her voice and allowing me to trust what I put in her. You know, we're rearing these children. We're saying we're putting this in them. Then we have to trust that how we raise them is going to be what it's going to be. And so, you know, and I'm still trying to go back like, you sure you did this? You do? And she was like, Mom, you know, I got it. So that is, you know, that is probably one of the main things that kind of brought all things for me to a halt until I just kind of got her situated, you know, back in school. The girls, we in volleyball season right now. So I'm doing volleyball 4 days a week. So you know, and on top of that, the boutique, the church, you know, so I'm just excited. I am just excited. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. When you bring Heal Her back, what you got? When your next season?
Listen, I want to bring Heal Her back next month. They are on my neck about Heal Her, and so Heal Her is just about the Father healing the little girl, that part of you that you hadn't allowed the Father to touch, and that is the her. And so I want to bring that community back next month. You know, it's just like I said, it's just been crazy with her moving and going to Charlotte. I don't even know. It just kind of felt like my heart just stop for a second, and now I feel like I'm catching my breath, finding my wind again, and moving forward. Because, you know, I think a lot of times as parents, we put so much of our stock into our children, and I notice a lot of times I always, I don't want to say the word forsake ministry because I want to be careful with the way I word that, but a lot of times I place my children, and I have to be very careful that I don't make them an idol, if that makes sense to you. And so a lot of times they are so on the forefront of my mind until it is almost like I abandon my post and everything else that I'm supposed to be doing. And so the Father has really been dealing with me about that. Like, why am I the first thing that you put down when it pertains to it gets to be all about your children? And so that is one of the places that I'm kind of working through. And the Father has really been rebuking me in this season. We've been doing this 6 a.m. prayer, but he every morning. And so he's really been dealing with me in my heart and about that piece and where it comes from with the abandonment of my own biological mother. And so how I almost mother out of this desperation place of them never feeling that way. But then I also neglect some of the things that the Father is calling me to do. So yes, that community is coming back because the Lord has just been letting me have it.
I love it.
And so, you know, so yes, that's where I am. You know, I always keep it real with you, sissy.
Yes, and I love it. And I can just say for myself, I can totally feel you on that space of really like so leaned into my children that I can sometimes lean out of the things that I know that the Lord has also told me to hold. And notice I said also, because it's not that he asks us ever to drop our children in our first ministry, but he does ask us to steward well and to prioritize from season to season and even moment to moment what he's saying to do in moments. And I mean, if I'm just 100%, especially for women watching, because I know this is a very much so a heartstring for many of us, I won't say that, I mean, I love my kids, don't get me wrong, but I do believe a lot of my energy being so focused on them to the point where I would drop other things had a lot to do with the fear of, I feel comfortable with my children. I feel like they are a safety net for me. I feel very good in this place, but in this other area, I feel like I'm having to stretch. I'm having to be vulnerable. God, I don't know. I'm not sure. And he's saying that you'll never be sure if you don't keep trying and keep striking in the same way that you have with your children, because we didn't come ready-made to do it all great with them either. But to the point of having to shift gears and being able to lean into that is so important.
Yeah, because we can do all the things. We definitely can do all the things. And I think we have been taught as women, pastor wives, you sit, be quiet, raise your children, let the man lead, as if it's not a call that God has called us to. Because walking this life, we have to be called to this. I know a lot of people see the glamour and they see the clothes and they see all that. You have to be called to this. And so, with that, it's just saying, like you said, he's calling us to hold multiple things at one time. And so I cannot neglect or not showing up, when my husband need me, because I'm like, oh my God, my kids. My kids need me. And what I'm learning with allowing Boo to blossom is, it's okay if I step back. I don't have to be the helicopter mom. She really does have it. And I've been training her for this for 18 years. So I need to trust the training. Yeah.
Yep. I think it's so good.
Ladies, have you gotten your hands on Dr. Jackie's latest book, Permission to Live Free? This book will bless your life. I'm telling you, you have to get your hands on it. It's all about living authentically who God created you to be. So even if you have the book, go ahead and grab another one and share it with somebody that needs this message, okay? Scan the QR code, tap the link in the description box, get your hands on it ASAP.
So we were talking about like just how important it is to be called to this thing of like ministry, and people can see the glamour and the glitz. And I know that this has to be something that you're at least aware of. I believe that many people will look at you and they would see, the beautiful ponytails and the pretty makeup, and even being a woman that is called to do a boutique ministry and wanting women to look good and feel good. But then, if anybody follows you like I do, they would look at you on your social media and you'll take the wig off, you'll take the makeup off, and you would allow people to see your natural beauty. Can you talk to us about how you don't, or if you have ever attached your beauty to what you had on or the makeup or how it looked? Has it ever been a time where you were more focused on how you looked in terms of appearance more than your mental or your emotional and spiritual state?
You know what, sis? I want to say no, really. I always been a person that kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. I used to do this blog years ago, probably about 9 or 10 years ago, and I called myself the D- pastor's wife. And I would make these long posts, on Facebook every week, and people love to see them. And what I meant by that was I was flunking on all the cylinders of people saying you have to always be put together. Right? I don't think I remember my pastor's wife back home. You saw her in Walmart. You saw her wherever. She was in her little kitten pumps. She was in her stockings. I was just like, this lady stays at home. Like, she was a stay-at-home mom. And the mother would be in a suit, like just shopping for her family. And I was like, man, there was never a point where it felt like she could be 100% herself, that she always had to be on. And so, and I remember my grandma said, it's better for a woman to be seen than not viewed, right? And so it's always, and yes, we want to be sure we take care of our bodies and our appearance, but I didn't want it to be a thing that it became the sum totem of who I was, right? And because we see it so much, and then everything else about me was ugly, that I focused so much attention on the hair, on the makeup, and I wanted people to feel free, because I also knew, I felt like, I don't know if I ever would have talked to her about a situation that I had, because she always looked so perfect. And so I'm saying, man, everything must be great in her life. Like, she don't even understand anything that I have going on in my life. And so those things was, I'm like, okay, I am a mama. And someday this wig ain't going on. And some days this hair set's gonna be 90 north. And guess what? I'm gonna still cook breakfast with this hair on, show everything hanging, and don't have my good unmentionables on. You know what I'm saying? Because that is real life. And I think we have done the church a disservice of trying to paint and show one facet facet of ourselves and not the sum total. And so people cannot connect and cannot identify.
Whoa.
And you know, I had more people say, you know why I came to your church? It was never for my preaching or my husband's preaching. People said the way you wife and mother and the way you present yourself on social media. A lady this past Sunday literally got in her car and drove to church watching live in the middle of, just because of the way we were worshiping. She's like, I have to be there. But it's like what we present to people, we have to be very careful. And I am very conscious. I think I'm very aware of those things because I'm always the type of person that can play not will just kind of be objective in my thinking, right? I always say, if I'm a first time visitor, I've never been to this church, I don't know you. How do I feel when I'm around you? Do I feel like this is a place that's approachable? The first lady or you know, you are approachable. Not only even as a first lady, I'm just talking about straight up as a Christian, right? We have people look mean, they put together, they look mean, they look, you know what I mean? And so those were the things I kept saying. Man, I saw so much of it kind of not the best. I kind of made notes that I would never do that. Now, I didn't think I'd be married to a pastor, okay? But there was still some things that I made a mental note that I was like, man, I never want people to kind of put me in that box and say, this is how I have to look at all times and be on all times.
I love it. But you're hitting on something that I feel like, and I can just speak for myself, that has been a benefit, but also kind of like an Achilles heel. I think many times, especially with this gift of objectivity, especially in the seat that we wear, you talked about it, whether it's being a pastor's wife or even just being a Christian at large, we always feel like we have to continuously think about how other people view how we are, right? So if I feel like this skirt is a little too, like, is the skirt too short, or am I just thinking about how everybody will perceive it? Or maybe I want to wear, you know, some popping lipstick, but I feel like I can't do that because that's not going to be viewed well in the space of the, you know, the seat that I sit in as a pastor or as a Christian. How do you talked about like marching to the beat of your own drum. How do you get to the point where the objectivity doesn't get in the way of you being also subjective to you? Meaning, I actually just like this and I don't want to lose myself in being so objective that I'm never subjective enough to say that, hey, before I was a pastor, I'm Jackie. Before I was, you know, a pastor, I'm Fanika. How do you also bring in your flavor and, you know, you put on your high heels or you put on your colors or your loud things that people might see and might say that's too much, but you get to the point where you're like, no, this is what I want to do and this is what makes me feel like me. How do you also incorporate that too?
You know what? I just thought about something. Sis, I lied to you. I lied to you. You know why? I just thought about it. When I first got married, man, how did I forget this? I was in church hats.
Really?
Yes. I'll send you a picture when we get off the live. I was in church hats. I wore shiny suits. I wore J. Renee purses and matching shoes. I was in my 20s. Probably looking like I was in my 40s. I probably look younger now than I did then because at that time, that's what I saw my pastor's wife do. And so that's how I thought I had to dress. So listen, my husband was a youth pastor in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and I'm wearing a suit, taking the little shell off and wearing the youth shirt tucked up under there because I'm thinking this is how people want to see me look, right? And then I got to a point and I was like, I started looking at pictures of myself. And so what happened, we were somewhere and somebody asked my husband, was I his mother?
No!
We were in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My husband was preaching and here I am with my big old hat on. I got my kids, you know, with me. I didn't have the four. I think I had two. And I got my shoes and I'm ready. And they was like, oh my God, your mom came? And I'm telling you, something in my heart just sunk. And I was like his mama, you know.
Mama.
So I'm looking like an old lady. And when I look back at the pictures, I was like, what the heck was I thinking? Why did I feel like this was something I had to do? I am so sorry. I don't even know how I forgot that little part, that little season of my life. And I did that right after I married my husband because I felt like I was so judged before because you got to think I was a woman that had a baby out of wedlock. So people often had something already to say about me. And then on top of that, for me to marry a pastor, and it was so much chatter I felt like I needed to look a certain way so maybe they would leave me alone belong and say, I do fit and I do belong and that my past won't be counted against me. And it's crazy that we feel like those things are tied to our clothes. Somehow salvation, somehow if I dress a certain way, it's going to excuse. This is what I've learned about people, and this is what freed me. People are going to talk regardless. Whether you like whether you wear what they like or whether you wear what you like. Because it's the thing, I can wear what you like and I don't feel comfortable in who I am. And so I'm sitting there like, oh, oh my gosh. And then I can wear what you don't like and you're going to feel the type of way. But all that matters at the end of the day, if LeBron friend is good with it, I'm good with it. And it sounds kind of funny, but that's kind of how I started doing my metrics in the sense of those things. Like, and he started saying, I've never asked you to put no hat on. I don't even know why you had that hot thing on. But it was the perception of this, how I thought he wanted his wife to look. And a lot of times, I don't even think we even have those conversations with our spouses, right? And so we just feel like we should look a certain way. And so I really started being free, like, man, I'm putting some on me that he never even put on me. He ain't never asked me to dress like that. And once that kind of set in, it really began to free me. You got to think, at one time, my husband was pastoring a missionary Baptist church in Arizona. It was the oldest African-American church in the state of Arizona. We were the youngest pastors they had ever had. And we were there 5 years. Every Sunday, they wanted me to wear the same hat as all the mothers. The exact same hat as all the church mothers. And I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. And at first, they felt a type of way. I would come in with blonde hair, baby. They would move me. They wouldn't even know I was a pastor's wife. Excuse me, that's the pastor's wife. See? And I turned, I said, oh, I don't think she'll mind, because I was switching it up like that. But it became so freeing. And all of a sudden, the women started coming out the hats. The women started changing kind of how they was looking. And it started being a thing. Now, at first, of course, some of the men came to my husband was like, I don't know. It's kind of like, your wife and the women feel liberated by it. I don't know what this is. And then after they got over that, was like, man, I don't know who this woman is. You know what I mean? This is shaved 10 years off of her life. And so I think that's what it was. I really got to a place. I said, you know what? Y'all gonna talk regardless. I'm gonna do what makes Monica happy, and I'm gonna be me. If I'm gonna show up, I'm gonna show up in my authentic self.
And I love it. I think that what I love most that you're describing, even in your testimony, about like going from trying to fit in to with the external to going to who you actually really are, is that doesn't just affect you. Even when you talk about people being drawn by you actually being authentic, like even in how you present yourself, people think authenticity is just how you act, but authenticity actually shows up in how you dress, how you carry yourself. And I don't think that we oftentimes think about that, but it can actually be the thing that causes someone to be drawn to you. Even your spouse, because everybody watching this is not married, right? I can attest to the same thing for you. My husband was like this week that you feel like you got to have a little bit like Beyonce. I actually like the natural version of you much more. And many times your spouse could be looking for you, but you're covering you up underneath something that he's not necessarily looking for. And so I would just say to the woman out there that's single, you might need to get back to what actually makes you happy, not what you think will make people happy, to become the version of you that God was actually looking for you to present, because people are looking for the real you. The second thing I want to ask you is kind of in light of this whole idea of departing from the validation of others. I think it can be very easy to say, like, I'm going to let go of what everybody else thinks. But, physical and external validation is so in front of you. Like, you get the likes on social medias. You get the people giving you compliments. How do you get to the place where you are able to prioritize, like, I know that God loves me. I know that he thinks I'm beautiful. And you look at like spiritual affirmation more than, like what people are saying on social media or what they're saying in public. I can say for myself, like when I did take the weave out, although Travis liked it, everybody like a little blazing and like a whatever they call it now. I got to the point where I had to be good enough with it and without it. I don't want to be blocked into the prison of not being able to wear it, but I also don't want to be locked into the prison of having to wear it. And being able to not be so focused on, some people like, I see they little comments like, oh, Dr. Jackie, I like when you have the hair in. Well, I also like that too, but I like when I have my hair cut. And so being okay with either. But how do you get to the point where the external validation is not louder than the voice of the Father and what he's saying to you about you?
I did struggle more so than kind of hair makeup. My thing was weight, right? I was an athlete in school. I was a track runner. I was in the band. I was prom queen, all these things, right? So everybody would say things like this when I was young. You're really cute. You got a really pretty face, especially to be so dark. right? So that was kind of the thing, like, right? So I'm always like, okay, the face card don't decline. Nobody ever really said anything about anything else, like, but my face, I got, for Christ hair, very, very ancient, don't you? Very tight hair, and so, I got on this thing like, ooh, but they say I got a pretty face, right? So when my body started to gain weight, because I was so used to that, I got to a place where I was like, I'm not doing nothing on the stage. Don't ask me to get up there, right? Because people always talked about this, how this looked. Not when it had gotten stretched out and the chin and got to be a little bit extra, right? And so I really started struggling, like, I don't know if I really want to be on camera. So what I would do, I was like, babe, let me tell you, this is what the Lord is saying, but if you could just go up there and say it. Now, I'll be your prophet at the house, and I'll tell you what it is that the Lord is saying, but I'm not getting up there. And he was like, you didn't used to be like this. What is this, right? Okay. And so I started getting worried because I'm like, ooh, baby, they getting smaller and they just, folks are getting, they got the glam squads. Like, I don't have all of this. What is this, right? And so then I had to get to a place where I'm saying, does the information change? Does God not speak to me because I'm 256 pounds?
Come on here.
Like, he only spoke to me when I was 160 something. So somehow this has taken my anointing away.
Yeah.
And so I think I started really, the Father had to really deal with my heart, and I really had to fall back in love with this version of me, right?
Yeah.
Because I would go home, everybody was like, "Oh my God, you used to be so small." You from the South, they hurt your feelings. You got
they will come for you.
You know what I'm saying? My grandma said, "Oh, you done got a little big, you done got a little wide." I'm like, "Oh my," but they'll still say something like, "Oh, but your face is still pretty. So is there anything else about me?" Right? And so then I had to start falling back in love with me in this body. And saying, God can still use me at this size. And I want to encourage even somebody on here, who have been struggling like me and just dealing with the weight. And, and it was like, dang, them babies started coming in so fast, and I was smaller. And it's like, who is this girl? I nurse. And I went from a BC to a G. And it's like, they said they're going to go down when the milk gone. Baby, the milk is gone and I'm still a G. Somebody lied, and so it's like, who is this person? It changed so quickly. The first 5 years of my marriage, I was pregnant for the first 5 years of my marriage, right? So it's like, so now I'm trying to find my identity new, in a marriage. And then, dang, baby, I lost 2 babies, and it's just like, and so then wait, and so just trying to figure out this person, right? And falling in love with this version of me. And when I began to fall in love with this version of me, yes, now I am working on the weight. I've lost 13 pounds. And yes, I'm trying to do things, to get it for health-wise for my children, right? But I'm having to say, God can still use me and speak to me at this, and I don't have to go somewhere and hide because somebody else might think 250 some pounds is offendable. You know what I mean?
Ooh. Yeah, I love it. And I think that what you're emphasizing so much is the danger of attaching your identity or your value or even your effectiveness to how you look. It's like we attach our identity to our package more than the actual contents that we carry. And the true essence of who we are is inward, not outward, right? And I think about that in terms of women who've had the babies and they've gone through, different traumatic scenarios that have changed the outward content, and they don't recognize that there's still value in the contents that they carry. And I love that you talk so much about that. Like, I'm still carrying the same oil, same fire, same yoke breaking power that made me who I was from the very beginning. And so I just think that it's crucial that we highlight the danger, and you kind of keep bringing that back up as a common thread of how we will end up in a scenario where we have lost touch with who we are because of how we look, because how we look is actually not who we are. And can we just speak a little bit to being able to detach our identity from if our hair look good, or detaching our identity from how much we weigh, or detaching our identity from whether you got the latest and the greatest? How do we live a life where it's not so stuck on what it looks like?
You know what? I almost challenged myself tonight. Okay, so when I mean this, the other week I went in Target, right? And I said, Sunday I'm gonna dress my whole family in Target.
Okay.
Whole family. We all gonna be in Target, right? I've been doing these little things. I'll be like, let me see what I can do with $150. It's almost become like a game to me, right? Because and I'm not saying nothing wrong with it. I for sure have a label and designer, right? I'm not saying nothing wrong with that. But what I'm saying was, at one time, it's like, man, is this kind of the trend that we're seeing, right? As it pertains to church, is this where we have to move to, and this is where we have to go to, right? And then you'll have people that say, I can't afford those things, so maybe that's not my place because I don't have what they have. Because there's a thin line between trying to coach people to say, hey, that was one time where I was actually on food stamps, right? And now I'm grateful for what the Lord has done. But there's one thing that we can come off and almost look, I don't want to say braggadocious, but it gets so stuffy and so bougie until it's like, no, don't think I want to touch it, right? And so then when I do that, people be so excited, like, I was in Target. I saw that outfit, right? And they just light up. And I'm like, what is that? And it started making me just a little bit more cognizant of certain things. And so I started, doing this little thing in this little game. And even with my children, I had to start being careful because they are privileged. And so I had to start saying, you know what? Just so we can understand some gratefulness and just so we can understand some things, right? So I started kicking back on some of those things because it is the truth. And that's why I keep bringing it up. We have a tied anointing, effectiveness to if you got this, if you have that. I had a young lady come to our church and this broke my heart. She was singing on a praise team, sis, and they asked her, did she have anything designer?
Oh my goodness.
And I was like, and I'm trying to fix my face and, keep it all nice. And I'm saying, why would that even be a question for you if you're singing there to lead the people into the presence of God? Like somebody literally asked you that. She was so broken. She didn't want to sing at our church, and the girl could like blow, and it was just crazy. But, I started seeing just the damage in some of those pieces. And like I'm saying, I ain't saying ain't it, you know what I'm saying? You can't wear your things, but I'm saying we just have to be careful, special as you have a following and I do too. And I think it is almost just kind of been a mandate to kind of try to lead people back to the house of God, where I have been grieved the most, because now everybody on this self, I'm more spiritual now that I'm at home than I ever been in the church. And God has been dealing with me about his body being in the church, in the actual building, right? There's some things only happened to Hannah when she got in the building. And I believe even as much as she was taunted at home, and even as she's taunted as going to worship, there was something when she stopped worrying about what and got in that house of worship, and the God began to send his mouthpiece to her to speak a word to her and pronounce a blessing over her. And I believe that there are some things that only happens when we get into church. And I feel like it is just my mandate to say, this is how we're going to lead people back to church. How? Being authentic. Because one thing about people of the world, they know when stuff is fake. They know when stuff is phony. They know when it's like, oh, they ain't nothing about money over there. They ain't about it, but they ain't about nothing else. They're all about if we look a certain way over there. And I've just got on this little self-train, like I want to lead people back into the presence of God. And if me showing up with my lashes off, and if me showing up with, since I wore my hair shorter than yours for years and dyed it blue, and if me showing up in those authentic pieces of people saying it's something about you that I identify with, right?
So good.
And it's saying I want to come back because I don't feel the fake with you. I don't feel the phony with you. I don't feel the real. And listen, even if you are not in the seat of, as me and Pastor Jackie, you still being a light at your job. You still being a light when you go in the store. I can't hardly go in Walmart or Target. Yesterday I went to the weight loss place, lady to spill her whole guts, and me and mother holding. I'm sitting there holding. I'm like, man, I just came here from a little shot, and I'm sitting here holding her, but because it was something there that made her feel comfortable enough, right? And so that's
and I feel like that's speaking so much, Fanika, to the thing that you talked about, like that you're more than your face. You're more than just a pretty face. Like when Fanika shows up, healing shows up. Like, and I think that we get so fixated fixated on this, just like when we show up, our hair shows up, or when we show up, our clothing shows up. We're so much more than our weight or what we look like. And because when you come in, the anointing that God is giving you comes in, that breaker anointing. And that's what he keeps having me say about you over and over. Like, it happens no matter where you go, grocery store, Walmart, Target, you name it. When you show up, that comes with you. And I think that if we could break away or detach our identity and our call and our effectiveness from how we look, I think that we would do much more. We would do more people a better service, because we're not so locked into the box of it got to look this way. And if it doesn't look this way, then I'm not going to do the thing I was called to do. One thing that I want to also highlight, because I have seen this as a mark for all the women that are in your household. You are a mother of 4 girls, and this is a podcast for predominantly women. What are you doing on a daily basis that shores them up in their identity, that causes them to not imprison themselves to their beauty or what they look like? Because Boo, her name's Asherelle. I've talked to her. Her confidence is on the same level of her look. Her ability to understand what God is calling her to is on the same level as her outward appearance. I just want to give practical to some mamas. Like, what are you giving women at large that would make them that confident, not just in what they look like, but in what they carry?
You know what? And it's funny. I have 4 girls, and all of them are made up extremely different, right?
Okay.
Who is more voluptuous like me, and then I got all the way down to my little runt baby, Lele, who is skin and bones. But it's funny. The funniest thing is they are all the size of me at one part of my life. Like, right, so everybody knew me to be this slim, skinny child, right? And then I started looking more like a model, more athletic build, you know, until to who I am now. And so even when the kids will say stuff like, well, you know, she real small, and I say, okay, and what does that mean? So does that make that less, you know? And so I'm always correcting them and being sure that we never do a thing with appearance. 2 years ago, Mana had to get on a steroid because her lungs collapsed at school. They had to rush her to they had to send an ambulance to school. They had to rush her to one hospital. The other lung collapsed. They ended up having to transport her to a child center downtown here in Atlanta. When my child came out, she had gained 26 pounds in I think it was about a span of like 11 days because of the steroids. Her face was so big until her eyes could hardly open. And I remember the girl when we, because, we didn't let them stay the night. And so at that time, because she was in critical ICU, only one parent could stay. So I would stay all through the day. My husband would spend the night. So my kids didn't see their sister, right? And so when I went up there and I saw like every day my baby just looked different. And you say 20 some pounds, but on a little bitty child, it looked like, you know what I mean? 60 pounds, you know? And so she was really unrecognizable. And so I remember telling the girls, we won't even speak to it. We won't even. We will act like we won't even speak to the size. It was so much so until the other day we was looking for some pictures to put up in Boo's room, and I came across a picture of Mana. It was at Boo's Sweet 16. She still was, really, and the kids was like, I don't even remember Mana looking like this. And I literally said to myself, God, I thank you, right? Because we did not make it a point to even discuss it, because I knew she felt a way. When she showed up at school, she had already felt a certain way. She don't have to come home and fight, right? We have enough we have to fight about, especially in this skin tone. My kids in private school, they don't really see people that look like them. They have enough they have to fight out there. I'm not going to let them come home and be uncomfortable and have to fight here. And as a mother, I'm tearing them down. I'm always speaking to their brilliance. I'm always speaking to the genius in them. I'm always speaking to the light that they are. Even every morning when I pray, I'm always saying how God is going to lock the genius in their mind. I don't say, and thank you for making them gorgeous. Now, a lot of times, yes, when I see them, I go, hey, gorgeous, or hey, beautiful, when I address them when they get home. But I'm always speaking to those things, their mind, their love for God. This morning, Katie was praying on the way to school. She got full talking about a teacher, and she said, the lady going through a divorce. And I was like, how do you know all this? She said, well, Mama, I was going to the bathroom, and I called the teacher crying in the bathroom. We stopped, got the lady a card. I said all that to say, man, look what it is with me not focusing on that, but focusing on the humans that they are. You are a beautiful soul. You are a beautiful light. People people gonna come in your presence and they're gonna feel the love of God. They're gonna feel and this is how I speak to them every day. And because this is what they hear at home, nobody else can tear that down from them. So now they are very assured in who they are. And at 10 years old, Lael is praying and the principal is pulling my car over saying, man, something was happening. She just prayed in the hallway, because I never want you to be ashamed of who you are. You all are called. You are marked. And those are the things that I speak to, besides, oh my God, look at them little legs and that thing. Yes, here, there, I'll say those things, but I'm trying to be sure, because I know what it's like. My sister was really, really tiny, even though I was smaller, my older sister, but it was, ooh, look how small she is. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's something always about our weight, and I always had rump even when I was smaller. Look at her big, oh, cover that up. So, you know, I'm like, now sometimes I stand in church and I'm sure my jacket is long covering it, because y'all been made me feel uncomfortable 10, 11, and I look at Mona little rump sit up, and I'm saying, let me not speak to that. When now I'm about to be 44, sometimes I still check myself as it pertains to my rump, because it was something that was said as a child. So I took those things that I said, this didn't work for me, and I see how it still affect me in my adult life, and I'm gonna do something different with my children. So I speak to the genius, and I speak to those things in them and the God in them. So I think that's really has been the difference maker.
I love how your answer is your focus. What you focus on produces their focus, and how even the focus being bad can produce insecurities. And it's a real thing when people are like, you know, even you talking about all your girls are all different, and they can have different hair grades, different skin colors, different sizes, and understanding that all the different variations can all be beautiful for the thing that God specifically wanted to make. I love that. So for all the different variations of women watching that might all have different insecurities, might be, you know, your big toe that nobody else can tell is a little crooked but you, or it might be your weight, or maybe it's the, you know, your skin color. For the woman that's dealing with any kind of insecurity, how would you ask her in this moment to offer that to the Father?
I would say you are so much more than what you think a flaw is. Because this is a thing. A lot of times what we call a flaw is the thing that God put there. Right? Mm-hmm. So when we have that thing, that thorn in our flesh, that thing that God won't take away, and it's causing us to limp, and it's causing for external people to see that there is something there that's an injury, or we call an injury there, and that part where he wrestled, with Jacob wrestled with God, is one of them things that he put there so he can remember. So I would say to the woman, listen, when some of those things that you think, oh, this is unfair, why they look this way, or this, what is it that God put? Why did God make me this way? And how does he want to use it? Because this is a thing. Woo. Anything that you place in the master's hand, he can use it. Listen, I've suffered rape and molestation. I've had a baby, and my baby died. I mean, full out labor. All of these things that I thought was going to crush me, and they was going to be the end all be all. When I began to put those things in the master's hand, he began to use them. Even in the time when I came to talk about my weight, because nobody really was talking about it as it pertained to church. People would get the little surgeries or whatever, and then they would come back skinny, and nobody would say nothing. And so people was really kind of scared, right? So I came to this thing where I wouldn't gatekeep. So when I'm saying, hey, this is what I'm going through, this is how I'm doing it, and this is why, I would say to you, listen, does these things make you less effective in God? Does anything that you think is a flaw make God love you any less? And if he put it there, how is he going to use it? How is he going to use it? It's a young lady, I think her sister is a comedian. I don't know if it's spina bifida or something that she has, but she had started using her platform with her sister, and she said it was something where she started covering her legs. One of her legs was bigger than the other, and she said when she started to show them, all of these women from the church world started saying that they had it too, but they was wearing long skirts and never showed anybody. So a lot of times the things that we want to hide and keep back, when we begin to reveal those things and give it to God, it begins to take the shame away. Because listen, if I say something, I don't care about you saying something about my weight or whatever you got to say, but when I release that thing and I am comfortable with it and I give it to God, I promise you, he will use it. He will use it. He even if it's just in conversation with somebody, and they'll say, oh my God, I thought it was just me. I thought I was the only one with a long extra second toe. I ain't know this real thing, right? But a lot of times what we're embarrassed about, I did a message one day and I had like 5 mirrors. I think I was in California and I had people just randomly walk up and write something they had dealt with. It was probably 10 things off of all 5 mirrors, and I had them all over the church. People couldn't see who was writing with. And I said, do you see how common? And some of y'all probably thought this was you was the only one that ever dealt with this or had this type of insecurity. And here it is. I done put these things all over the church and just had people different times at this conference go and write on this mirror, and you'll find the common thread. So a lot of things that you feel like, the thing is, when we're quiet and we allow the enemy to muzzle our mouth and he try to put us on an island of ourselves, that's when we begin to beat our minds and tear our own self down. Sometimes we are our worst enemy, our worst critic. When I started feeling fabulous at 256 pounds, well, I was 260 something. I've lost down. I was 269. At 269, when I started feeling fabulous at that, it was no stopping. So now with the weight loss, thank God, praise God, hallelujah. Right. But I don't feel no different than I did at 269. And so, but it was one of those things where I had to really give it to the Father, because it started to want to control me. So should I eat today? Oh, let me do this fad diet. Let me do this diet, right? And when I became comfortable with me and start asking the Father to come in, listen, even to help me with my eating. Okay. Because he can do that too. We have to invite him on the things that we think are trivial, or he don't even care, or he's not concerned about. Maybe he's concerned about the small thing. I lost my key this morning. I didn't want my kids late for school. I said, Father, let me stop right here. I'm not going to be tearing this house up. I got to get my kids to school on time. Literally, I went directly to the keys. I said that, and it seems small and it seems trivial, but that's just how concerned the Father is about the things that we don't even think he's concerned about.
I love it. And I think this is an absolutely fabulous conversation. I feel like it was so edifying in so many different regards. It hit on some mommy-like release. It got all the way into like the insecurity and really detaching identity and effectiveness from how we look. And even just to close in, allowing the Father to be inserted into everything. I think all 3 of those things collectively will really reshape what it looks like for us to live out freedom. And that's really what Permission Talk is all about. I want to say thank you, Sissy, for pouring. And I am so appreciative for you. Today was absolutely incredible. Do you have any final words? I want to make sure, is there anything else you want to add before we jump off?
No, I'm just proud of you. I'm so excited that we even got to do this and bring this to a platform like this, because I think so many people can identify with this special, you know what I'm saying, special Christian women, because people are really struggling with that whole piece of identity, or how should I look, or how should I present myself. Baby, show up as you. You show up as you every day, every day. If showing up as you is your wig off, that's showing up as you that day, right? Like I literally just put this together 30 minutes ago. I had a pajama top and a dress on top of that, and took my kids to school. And my husband said, I said, but come 12 o'clock, I'm gonna pull it together. And guess what? When I go back up there, I'm gonna put that little t-shirt back on and that little dress that I had on, because I'm doing housework today. You know what I mean? So whatever your authentic self is at that time, that is what you always. And in either one of those states, you're no less effective. That's the big takeaway. You're as effective in both states. I love you, Sissy. I'll see you soon. Bye. Hey guys, so I just wrapped up an episode with Anika Friend, When Beauty Becomes a Prison, and it was all about these insecurities and finding our identity and what other people think rather than really trusting the Lord. I want to activate you. So this is a PJ activation in response to this episode. What I want you to do is be you, right? So if you are the girl that wants to wear, your crop top, but you feel like that's unacceptable for the title or the way in which you have shown up in your daily life, wear your crop top if that's what makes you excited or makes you happy. I want you for the next week, maybe it's no makeup. And I know that's a real dangerous thing for a lot of us women. Or maybe it's not wearing a wig. Maybe there's been something that you've been doing over and over again that you feel like you cannot do. I think that's the biggest question. If you've been doing anything and you feel like you cannot do that, you cannot not do that. I know that's a double negative, but follow me. I want you for at least, give me 3 days. Go for 3 days without doing that thing. For me, in the past season, it would have been not being able to wear weave. In another season, it may have been not being able to go, do makeup with being on camera. There have been so many things I told myself I had to do in order to be able to fit the bill for a particular thing. I want you to be free enough to do it however you feel the Lord is leading you to. And that might just be able to do it without the thing you feel like you got to have, because you are as effective with or without it. I love you.
Yeah.
Well, since we're being vulnerable.
Yes.
I would say like my latest insecurity has been my weight.
Okay.
And so I got to the point where I couldn't fit any of my jeans. Like to the point where I was like busting out, like I broke zippers. Like I couldn't wear them. Not even like, oh girl, you just don't look. It was like, I just can't, and I had nothing to wear, and it was affecting me really badly. Like I didn't want to get up in the morning because I'm like, I got to figure out something where I don't have nothing to wear. Like I look terrible, and I'm not used to that. Like, cause I grew up kind of how Fanika was talking about, like fit and all of this. And I have, if you're on TikTok, then you know I have an almond mom, which is like, it's just, so it's like basically like, if you're in the pantry, like you have like almonds and nuts and stuff, like that's what's in your pantry, not like junk food. Okay. So like that's my mom, and I love her. You do have an almond mom. Yes, so I love her, but she's like bodybuilder at 60 something, you know.
Guys, her name is like 60licious.
Yeah, like, so she's like fly, you know, but weight has been a thing that she'll continually, you know, check on, just be like, okay, I see, you know, you're gaining this thing, and it's gotten to the point where it's like, now it's starting to affect me. Most of the time I'll be like, okay, girl, you know, I'm thick, you just ain't got no butt. But when it gets to the point where it's like I'm busting out of stuff, I'm like, dang. And I just had this realization. I was like, you know what? I can be like, I can beat myself up or force myself to be like, you're not buying no new clothes until, you know, you lose this weight, which I told myself at first. And I was like, stop being so hard on yourself. Like, you're going to lose the weight, but girl, go to Old Navy. They got jeans for sale. Buy you some. And I felt so much better. Like, just having, you know, like, I'm like, I don't want to go up a size. This is like, well, this is the size that you at right now. Yeah. And you don't have to reserve being kind to yourself until you lose this weight. Lose the weight. I bought this, I've been eating better, but in the meantime, still appreciate the body that you currently have. Yes. Like, you're still living, you're still breathing, and you can still, like, these are my new jeans, and I like, you know, but cute. Yeah, but I don't feel like I have to just suffer through this thing because of this. So that's been something I've like actively working on, but learning how to be kind to myself in the midst of like going through something I've never done with, you know, dealt with before, you know. So
I think that offers people the ability to not just grab a challenge and grab discipline, but not also grab grace. I think that's crucial, because how you'll live through the season of the new discipline and a new challenge will be dictated on what you sprinkle on top. Like, the grace being applied will allow you to enjoy the new journey of maybe going on a fitness journey, not like, I don't know, like anorexia in the middle of it, if that makes sense. I just think your emotional state being the priority to reflect what you want to show up physically, being prioritized, that's a whole word.
And Pastor Fanika, she talked about it, about like loving this weight, because even if you lose it, and what I realized, I was having a conversation with my husband, I was like, I can honestly say, I'm like, I don't know if I feel comfortable in my body. Like I don't necessarily feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like I like her, or I like the way I look, and not even because of weight, you know, just, I was like, I don't know if I've ever just kind of like accepted like how I am with nothing added or all this other stuff. And so I've been challenging myself to just be like, I like her now. Again, I know this is not where I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna stay there, but I will only take that into my new fitness journey. So if I don't settle that of like, who I am now is good and it's well, and you know, like it's sexy and it's beautiful, but like I have to settle that now. So I'm like working on that as well, so that I don't carry it over into losing 30 pounds. Or something.
So good.
And I love,
no, you got it.
I pray that you enjoyed today's episode. It was absolutely amazing. But what you just watched was something we like to call Let's Talk About It. Myself, PJ, and Keisha, we sit down after every episode and deep dive into what happened and really talk about the real stuff that we didn't get to talk about inside of the episode. And this content is only available inside of Permission World. So what you have to do in order to watch a full episode, you have to join the app. There's information on the screen right now. There's information in the description box. Make sure you jump in on the app. Speaking of which, don't click off yet. I want to show you a testimony of someone inside of Permission World already and how it's impacted her life. Check this out.
Hey guys, I'm JC, and I just wanted to really quickly tell you why the Permission app and being a part of Permission World has been so impactful and so vital for this past season of my life. The Permission app provides incredible resources and incredible tools for you in your faith journey, whether you're new, whether you've been on it for a while. It's for everybody across the board. And has an incredible community of women who talk about faith, who talk about life, who talk about the Lord in their journey, all the highs and all the lows. And so if you haven't already, please sign up for Permission World, get the Permission app. You won't regret it. And it will challenge you to grow deeper. It will challenge you to grow more together with other believers and other women. So make sure you get that.